Remember the deserted highway, the screams, and the monster lurking in the shadows in Jeepers Creepers? It haunts your nightmares. But beyond the screen, that horror also followed the cast into real life, with broken marriages, illness, silent disappearances, and shocking transformations. This is what really happened to them after the horror film era of the 2000s subsided. Jonathan Breck as the Creeper. Jonathan Breck was born on February 17, 1965, in Houston, Texas, USA. At age 36, he played the Creeper, an ancient winged predator driven by hunger and instinct, in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. Covered in layers of makeup, his face was almost invisible so the creature could breathe. From that moment on, the monster would speak louder than the man behind it. Breck's childhood was one of quiet pressure rather than chaos. Growing up in a middle-class Texas family, he was surrounded by expectations that valued discipline and practicality more than imagination. Creativity still existed, but it had to be controlled, almost hidden. Over time, this tension taught him how to endure discomfort in silence, how to suppress doubts, and how to move forward without ever feeling completely certain of where he belonged. That inner restraint stayed with him into adulthood. Choosing acting as a career means living in uncertainty, long periods of insecurity, irregular income, and a gradual erosion of self-confidence due to constant rejection. Relationships are difficult to maintain when survival requires constant travel. Loneliness silently accumulates over the years without any solace. When Jeepers Creepers finally achieved recognition, it came with a cruel contradiction. Breck's physical performance was widely praised, but his identity vanished in the guise of the monster. Audiences remembered the silhouette, the wings, the eyes, but not the man. His roles include Jeepers, Creepers 2, Star Trek Voyager, and Spy Kids 4. Despite having plenty of free time, he's always busy, yet a feeling of being forgotten still haunts him. Today, Jonathan Breck is 61 years old and deliberately stays away from the hustle and bustle of Hollywood. He continues to pursue acting and production selectively, prioritizing control over fame. With an estimated net worth of around $2 million, his life tells a rather quiet story. 5. Gina Phillips as Trish Jenner. Gina Phillips was born on May 10, 1970, in Miami Beach, Florida, USA. At the age of 31, she played Trish Jenner, the protective older sister and emotional anchor in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. Her performance showcased fear, defiance, and primal strength. It was the kind of role that showcased a person's resilience in the face of pressure. Her emotional foundation had been tested long before that film. Growing up in a hard-working immigrant family, Phillips witnessed effort outweigh comfort, and responsibility came early to her. When her parents divorced, the fragile sense of security she relied on shattered, leaving her to confront loneliness at an age when stability should have been paramount. Independence became a shield, not a choice. This childhood loneliness resurfaced later in her love life. A painful relationship left lasting emotional wounds, fostering anxiety and silent bouts of depression that never fully surfaced. Even as her career soared through projects like Ally McBeal and Boston Public, her private life remained unstable. Success came, but it brought no peace, only pressure to keep going despite exhaustion. Marriage offers stability rather than escape. In 2009, Phillips married Lee Nelson, and motherhood reshaped her priorities, leading her to focus inward. The challenge was no longer just survival, but balance, protecting mental health while maintaining creativity. Years of internal pressure have made that balance fragile, requiring her to deliberately distance herself from an industry that constantly craves fame. Now 56, Gina Phillips lives a quieter, more private life in Los Angeles. She continues to act and produce selectively, shaping her work in her own way rather than chasing trends. With an estimated net worth of around $3 million, her story no longer resembles a grueling climb. It's more like a careful, step-by-step rebuilding process after realizing just how high the price of power must be to survive. Justin Long as Derry Jenner. Justin Long was born on June 2, 1978, in Fairfield, Connecticut, USA. At age 23, he played Derry Jenner, the anxious, protective older brother who becomes entangled in an uncontrollable nightmare in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. His youthful face and restless energy made the horror feel unsettlingly real. That vulnerability stemmed from something deeper than the script. He grew up in a strict Catholic family, with a father who was a philosophy professor and a mother who was a stage actress. Justin lived caught in a struggle between discipline and acting, between logic and emotion. School became more of a battlefield than a sanctuary. His skinny frame and awkward appearance made him an easy target for bullying, and the ridicule gradually eroded his self-confidence. Fear caused him to withdraw, doubting his self-worth long before he reached adulthood. That insecurity followed him even after he became famous at a young age. When the movie Jeepers Creepers unexpectedly propelled his career to new heights, the pressure increased rather than decreased. Success came quickly, but the fear of revealing his abilities also arose simultaneously. Even when audiences laughed along with him in Dodgeball and accepted him, anxiety still lurked behind those laughs. The praise never completely silenced the voice that always told him he didn't belong. His personal life reflected that emotional instability. High-profile relationships with Drew Barrymore and later Amanda Seyfried brought fame, but little peace, breaking down due to distance, scheduling conflicts, and emotional exhaustion. During this period, Long also struggled with anxiety and depression, exacerbated by his relentless work and constant need to appear likable. A subsequent traumatic incident, being drugged and abducted during a film shoot, left lasting psychological scars and physical neurological damage, further reinforcing his awareness of the fragility of safety. By 2026, Justin Long, 48 years old, lives a completely different life. Married to Kate Bosworth since 2023 and now a father, he has selectively shifted his focus to acting, directing, and podcasting, including work on films like Barbarian and Tusk. With an estimated net worth of around $14 million, his story is no longer about proving himself. It reflects a man gradually learning to feel secure in his own place. Avis Marie Barnes as Officer Weston. Avis Marie Barnes was born around 1960 in New Jersey, USA. At approximately 41 years old, she played Officer Weston, an authoritative figure in uniform who becomes embroiled in a horror story that defies all rules in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. Her performance was rather restrained and realistic, reflecting a presence shaped more by survival instinct than acting ability. She entered the film with a simple, genuine quality, and that sincerity stayed with her throughout. Barnes grew up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and resilience was essential. Poverty shaped her daily life, and ambition had to compete with basic survival needs. Education became her escape, but it was never guaranteed. Every step forward required effort, perseverance, and sacrifice, especially in an environment where failure was expected more often than success. That pressure followed her into adulthood. Entering the acting profession meant navigating an industry that rarely waits, while simultaneously shouldering the responsibility of representing her roots. Roles came slowly and often went unappreciated, fueling the fear that a single mistake could wipe out years of hard work. She learned that patience wasn't a virtue, but a necessity. Instead of retiring, Barnes quietly developed. She continued to hone her acting skills, then appeared in projects like Waves and the upcoming F1, balancing acting and producing. Her career didn't explode, but it was steady. Each achievement proves that survival in the industry doesn't require constant prominence, but rather perseverance. By 2026, Avis Marie Barnes, around 66 years old, will still be working selectively. With an estimated net worth of around $800,000, her life reflects a career shaped by persistence rather than rewards. Her story is neither loud nor tragic. It is stable, realistic, and built on effort, shaped by the quiet strength of someone who refuses to disappear. Brandon Smith as Sergeant David Tubbs. Brandon Smith was born on August 13, 1952, in Harris County, Texas, USA. At age 49, he played Sergeant David Tubbs, a weary small-town officer who sensed danger long before it struck in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. His presence exuded a solid, calm demeanor and a menacing composure. It was a kind of authority forged from life experience, not from achievement. Smith's early years were shaped more by hardship than ambition. Growing up in rural Texas in a farming family, he understood the burden of labor before he understood the freedom of childhood. Financial pressure was constant, and the arguments between his parents filled the house with tension that never truly ended. Physical exhaustion came early, and emotional security was something he learned to live without. That experience shaped his relationships as an adult. Marriage brought companionship, but it also created conflicts, especially when his alcoholism surfaced during stressful times. This addiction never manifested openly, but it silently eroded trust and nearly ended his marriage to Margaret Lawrence. What sustained the relationship was not romance, but patience. His career followed a similar pattern. Smith worked consistently but never wastefully, appearing in projects like Powder and later Bernie, often playing men dominated by weariness rather than hope. Acting wasn't an escape from hardship, but a continuation of it. Even as the Jeepers Creepers show brought him back into the spotlight, his life remained simple, centered on daily routines rather than fame. Sadly, Brandon Smith passed away on October 27, 2023, in Houston, Texas, at the age of 71. He died peacefully after years of battling illness, including a mild heart condition diagnosed in 2010. He was buried quietly, leaving behind an estimated fortune of $1 million, not reflecting his fame, but his perseverance. Patricia Belcher as Giselle Gay Hartman. Patricia Belcher was born on April 7, 1954, in Helena, Montana, USA. At age 47, she played Giselle Gay Hartman, a weary psychic haunted by unwanted hallucinations. In the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers, her voice conveyed fear rather than exaggeration. That character carries more of a cautionary tale than fiction. B. That weary sense of power doesn't just stem from training. Belcher's childhood forced her to mature early. Growing up in rural Montana, her family fell apart when her parents divorced, shattering the sense of security that children instinctively rely on. Responsibility quickly descended. She became the caregiver for her younger siblings, learning to manage the chaos before she had the language to express her own feelings. Those years taught her resilience, but also how to hide her vulnerability when there was no room for it. That pattern quietly followed her into adulthood. Belcher entered acting much later than her peers. She naturally gravitates toward roles of power, such as judges, doctors, administrators, and officials, not because she's typecast into a particular role, but because those characters reflect the composure she's learned to project in real life. Her early film roles, like Flatliners, brought her fame, while Jeepers Creepers cemented her place in audiences' memories. Television roles in shows like Bones and Good Luck, Charlie provided stability. But beneath that steady success lay an unspoken anxiety. That's why she poured all her energy into her work, using the structure as a shield. The absence of scandal masked years of silent pressure, especially as she operated in an industry that rarely placed women who didn't fit traditional stereotypes at the center. Acting gradually became less about fame and more about survival through conformity. Today, Patricia Belcher, 72, remains active and respected in the film and television world. With an estimated net worth of $1.5 million, her career reflects resilience rather than ostentation. Her legacy is not defined by a single role, but by decades of unwavering dedication to telling other people's stories while maintaining her own life. Steve Rollerson as a correctional officer. Steve Rollerson was born around 1950 in Florida, USA. At around age 51, he played the role of a prison warden, a tough character in the prison system tasked with controlling the situation, where chaos had begun to spread in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. His authority radiated confidence, not acting. It was the look of someone who had seen enough to no longer question it. Growing up in Florida, Rollerson's childhood was marked by no glamour or shortcuts. That environment valued resilience and self-reliance, shaping a worldview where endurance was more important than ostentation. Dreams were realistic, ambitions carefully considered. Acting wasn't a frivolous hobby for him, but a job, something to be taken seriously or done at all. That mindset shaped his career. He gravitated towards roles that were more profound than glamorous, often portraying men affected by violence, institutions, or moral compromise. Films like Bully, and later The Punisher, reflected that seriousness, placing him in stories where power and consequences clash. His work was stable, but rarely pleasant. His personal life was kept private. Long working hours on set and the demands of filming on location created distance, encouraging privacy as a form of self-protection. Rollerson avoided ostentation, choosing stability over prominence, even when greater attention might have brought quicker rewards. By 2026, Steve Rollerson will be around 76 years old and largely out of the public eye. His estimated net worth of around $400,000 reflects a career built on trustworthiness rather than sensational news. Eileen Brennan as Mrs. Cat. Eileen Brennan was born on September 3, 1932, in Los Angeles, California, USA. At age 69, she played Mrs. Cat, a frail, terrifying woman whose brief encounter revealed the creature's cruelty in the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers. The role lasted only a brief moment, but it carried a strange weight, amplified by Brennan's own life experiences. By then, she had nothing left to prove, only scars to bear. Her early years were haunted by pain that never truly healed. Growing up in poverty in Los Angeles, Brennan lived with an alcoholic father, turning their home into an unpredictable place where fear replaced safety. She later revealed that her experiences of abuse left deep emotional scars, shaping her self-esteem and trust from a young age. Growing up wasn't a liberation, but a transformation. Her 1968 marriage to David John Lampson offered hope for stability, but the relationship crumbled under emotional and financial pressure, ending in divorce in 1974 while they were raising 2 children. Afterward, her career flourished. The mysterious Benjamin case, a murder by assassination, provided clues, but her personal life remained fragile, as if joy always came with a warning. The physical trauma that followed completely changed her life. In 1982, Brennan was hit by a car, sustaining serious injuries that required years of recovery and led to a dependence on prescription painkillers. Just as she was regaining her health, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, forcing her to fight another battle she never wanted to. Sadly, Eileen Brennan passed away on July 28, 2013, at the age of 80 from bladder cancer at her home in Burbank, California. She left an estimated $2 million estate, a modest sum compared to her legacy. Remembered for her roles in Benjamin Button and Clue, she was laid to rest peacefully. Her life was not defined by ease or luck, but by extraordinary resilience. Tom Tarantini as Roach. Tom Tarantini was born around 1960 in California, USA. At approximately 41 years old, he played Roach, an anxious manual laborer whose fears were evident even before he spoke. In the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers, although the role was brief, his anxious presence lingered in the audience. It was a genuine, lively performance rather than a forced one. Born into a middle-class family, he grew up with parents who believed that stability was more important than passion. Acting was seen as a distraction, while business was a necessity. This division forced him to pursue his creative pursuits in a fragmented way. This internal conflict followed him into adulthood. Entering Hollywood without family support or the protection of the film industry meant years of playing minor roles and living in constant uncertainty. He gradually became accustomed to waiting for calls, waiting for opportunities, waiting for assurances that never came. Even with appearances in Jeepers Creepers 2 and later films like Peaceful Warrior and Prom Night, his career remained fragile, always at risk of disappearing after just one project. Marriage brought emotional stability, but also created pressure. Long filming trips kept him away from home, creating a distance that tested his patience and trust. Tarantini chose privacy over fame, protecting his family from an industry that was already too demanding. Today, Tom Tarantini is around 66 years old and rarely appears in public. His estimated net worth of around $500,000 reflects a career built on perseverance rather than profit. His story isn't about triumphs or defeats, but about quiet compromises. The price paid for choosing family and self-respect over a glamorous legacy. John Baccara as Soldier Gideon. John Baccara was born on March 10, 1961, in Florida, USA. At age 40, he played Trooper Gideon, a vigilant state trooper trying to restore order in the face of something inexplicable. In the 2001 film Jeepers Creepers, his appearance, though brief, was authentic, a seemingly fragile line of human defense. The calmness in his performance was heavily tinged with the anxieties of life. Bacara's early years were shaped more by displacement than by roots. Frequent family moves disrupted continuity, forcing him to re-establish friendships, school, and his identity time and again. Stability never had time to settle. He learned to adapt quickly, grasp situations swiftly, and conceal parts of himself, skills that outwardly appeared resilient but inwardly concealed a quiet weariness. That restlessness followed him into adulthood and into his career. Building an acting career means accepting uncertainty as a constant companion, never knowing what role will come or disappear next. The lack of a stable foothold leads to a professional life of constantly pursuing small steps forward. Small wins are important because they are rare, while setbacks last longer than expected. Television offers structure that film lacks. The work in Days of Our Lives creates rhythm and continuity, while projects like Common Sense Golf fill in the gaps. However, even with consistent achievements, a slight sense of direction remains, with an actor always ready to move because standing still never feels secure. John Baccara is now 65 years old and works selectively as an actor and director. With an estimated net worth of around $600,000, his career reflects perseverance rather than profit.